Ian Maddox, Hitchcock Maddox Financial Partners, continuing our conversation about the concept of financial planning simplified. We define that a couple of different ways, but one of the things we do is we break the planning process into three phases. The planting phase, which is 20s and 30s, we talked about that on our last video, in fact. The next phase is the growing phase, which really addresses the financial planning needs of those in their 40s and 50s. We'll call it generally midlife. And then the last phase, which we'll talk about in a subsequent video, is the enjoy phase for those that are 60 plus. So let's dive in and pick up where we left off. We talked about the setup for those in their 20s and 30s, and then some pitfalls that kind of face, a lot of people in this age range face, and then finally opportunities. How do we solve for those pitfalls? So let's dig in a little bit here for 40s and 50s. I fall into this category, so this is near and dear to me in my own planning process. So think about this. You're now in your 40s or 50s. Your kids are getting older. So are your parents. Your responsibilities are going up. Your pay is going up, right? But so is your stress. So all of these things are kind of swirling around. There's a lot of things pulling on you, your spouse, your family, right? For anybody in their 40s and 50s, you're all nodding your head saying, yes, thumbs up, we totally agree. Just the challenge of kids getting older and aging parents at the same time can be stressful. And the other thing that sometimes starts to play on us is this idea of midlife crisis. Maybe we've had our own health scares or some issues just as our bodies get older. And so all of this is kind of swirling around in our minds as we go through midlife. Potential pitfalls. We talked about last video the establishment of the keeping up with the Joneses mentality. We all kind of know what that means. The problem is that if we didn't create a pattern to combat that or fight that in our 20s or 30s, it only gets worse in your 40s and 50s. And what I mean by worse is it gets more expensive. Instead of it being a, hey, my friend went to this tropical beach or this restaurant on Instagram and I want to go experience it too, maybe that's $1,000 or maybe it's a $200 dinner. It becomes a $60,000 car or a $300,000 vacation home or whatever. You get what I'm saying. This pattern can just accelerate in this stage because we have more income, right? So it's something to be aware of. Still no plan, right? So sometimes, I'm sometimes surprised people in their 40s and 50s will not really have a financial plan in place at this point. They didn't establish one in their 20s and 30s. Maybe, yeah, sure, I'm saving some money in my 401k, and that's about it. They can't really define what the plan looks like. They just know that they're chasing rabbits, right? They're getting their kids through school. They're helping their parents as they get older. They're busy, right? That's what I would say. It's just simple busyness is a distraction from purpose, right? And then letting stress and emotion drive decisions. Because you're getting pulled so many different directions between career and family and budgets, a lot of times it gets things stirred up, and that can cause a decision-making pattern that is less than ideal. So what do? Here are some opportunities. First of all, take a deep breath. Take a deep breath. Use this sense of stress that's welling up as an opportunity to pause, to reflect, and to reevaluate. I know that's very philosophical, but I think it's really, really important at this stage. You're having to make some really important decisions, sometimes that affect others in your life that are important to you. It is good to pause and reflect. If you haven't established a plan, now is the time to do it. Don't let it be a wing it scenario. Yes, I'm putting money in my 401k. Yes, money's going into my HSA. Yes, I know all these things are coming down the road, but they still feel far enough away that they don't have to be urgent. Retirement is still a decade away or 15 years away. You don't want to keep doing that because it will sneak up on you. So establish a plan today. Or reevaluate it if you have one. Check in with it. Maybe you've done it, but you're not checking in with it often enough. What about your estate? Okay, this is a question that needs to be addressed. Do I have a will? Has it been updated? Do I have a power of attorney? Some of these responsibility things that really just come into play, this is a stage of life that you really need to get that in order. And I think it will come to fruition with my last point, is that you may begin to have to help your parents with organization, with work around the house. If you're dealing with an aging parent or maybe one that's sick or maybe even you've lost a parent, you will find out very quickly if their financial house was in order. And so you can do some of these things proactively, either because the catalyst is something happens to them and you say, oh, I haven't done it, I need to, or you can do it ahead of time and maybe perhaps pass that legacy on to your kids, is to say, we're going to have a financial house that's in order. So Those are the key takeaways I have for the 40s and 50s generation. Next video, we'll jump into that retirement phase of the financial plan. As always, if we can be of help, give us a shout. Ian Maddox, HMFP.